Hi, my name is Carina Ockedahl. I'm the managing editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. I'm here with Brian Murphy from Canadian Black Book today. So today we're going to kind of jump right into our first question about the situation of COVID-19 and a very probable recession. Now, Canadian Black Book, some of the insights that were provided in previous weeks had mentioned a three-point scenario of recessions, which is now down to two. So maybe, Brian, you can go a little more into detail about what those scenarios are and what it's looking more and more like right now.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning. Yes, we're treating this. We're really trying to deal with this every day and understand what the impact is on the market, on the Canadian economy. And as you mentioned in the question, we did originally have three scenarios for recession that is triggered by COVID. We quickly discarded the first one, so we really have two, which really call one of them our most likely case, our probable recession scenario, and then we have a deeper recession scenario. So the first one, our projection is that sales in Canada would decrease, and this is new vehicle sales, would decrease by about 25%. So we would lose about 500,000 vehicles out of the pack of vehicles that are planned to be sold this year. And then the deeper recession scenario, which that will really be brought on by if we have a protracted period of social isolation. So, I mean, it's our expectations that hopefully by Canada Day, the social isolation protocols are lessened. But if it's extended, say, into the later part of the summer, early part of fall, then we're into our deeper recession scenario where we see that sales could be down by as much as 40%. And certainly we're not too fond of that scenario because of what it means to the entire industry. But we are forecasting for it, and we're prepared for that to adjust our residual value forecasts accordingly if that's the case.
So maybe we can also jump into, you mentioned kind of the economy, and so I'm thinking about new vehicle and used vehicles. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a background about what's going on with those two categories right now.
Yeah, well, interesting enough, I mean, we just talked about new vehicle sales, but we expect that there'll be, of course, a similar impact to used vehicle sales. However, there may be a bit of a silver lining there that we may see some substitution effect. So what I mean by that is we may see consumers decide to purchase a used vehicle instead of buying a new vehicle, just as a way of economizing during a period of time that's going to be difficult financially for many, many households in Canada. So there may be some upside for used cars sales. We also specifically, within used car sales, we see opportunities in vehicles, say less than $10,000. So people that are still looking for a car that is in good condition to, provide reliable transportation, but not anywhere near the price of a new vehicle. So there may be some upside there for the used car sellers in Canada.
Do you also have any short-term and long-term projections you can share with us, either in terms of new and used vehicles or just the economy in general and what's going on with the automotive industry?
Yeah, certainly. In the short term, I mean, we've just gone through a period of a couple of weeks where there wasn't very much wholesale activity. So the auctions in Canada, the large auctions were closed. They had different digital platforms available for dealers to wholesale cars or to buy cars. But we're starting to see it start up again. So this week, ADESA opened Richmond and Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg. So that's great to see. But what we're expecting to see in the short term is I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, shall we say, where it's our expectation that buyers of vehicles right now are looking for deals. So they're looking for vehicles that are on the market that are perhaps underpriced, and sellers are really trying to hold the line and realize as much money for their vehicle as possible. I mean, as they always are, but right now, I think there's not really a meeting of the minds between those two parties. So what we've seen in auctions that we watched, actually, the auctions in the last few days when they were operating at, fully operating, we saw a high no sale rate really across the country. And it was actually the same in the United States as well, that no sale rates were a lot higher. And that just suggests that buyers and sellers really aren't on the same page as far as what the price should be. So we see that happening for probably for a few weeks. And then we do expect that values are going to fall quite a bit. So we're expecting about a 15% decrease in values, in wholesale values. and it's different. I mean, it's different depending on what type of vehicle. It'll be more for SUVs, so we think that SUV values will go down about 16%, and cars down by about 11%. And this is a short-term decrease. So we expect in the fall, latter part of the summer, we think values will actually go back up again. But in the short term, there's going to be a lot of downward pressure on prices.
So that's interesting you mentioned that, and I'm wondering if the new wage subsidy program that the federal government, announced, so it's gone up from 10% to 75%, and I'm wondering if this may have any kind of impact on the projections that you have.
I don't think it doesn't impact the projections for a couple different reasons. I mean, in general, I think any amount of assistance to individuals or to businesses, especially small businesses during this time, is appreciated and essential. But the way we view it is that, as with any recession or crisis of this nature, one of the things that suffers is consumer confidence, which is this intangible thing that economists speak about or forecasters speak about, but it is very real. And I think all of us are living through this right now every day. So we feel that our own confidence in our own household economics is shaken by this. Lots of people in Canada, record numbers have applied for unemployment. People are applying for other subsidies the government is coming out with. So when you're living in that environment day to day, buying a shiny new car is typically not top of mind. So really, we think that those subsidy programs are great, but they're not going to really fully address the issue of consumer confidence. So, and until that returns, auto sales will suffer. Even if everything went back to normal on Monday morning, all the dealerships opened, even if everyone had stock, because there's an issue of shortages of vehicles that is probably looming as well. I think it would be a while until consumers return to showrooms, simply because they're concerned about how secure is their job. Plus, in the short term, many consumers are using their credit cards to buy food, or they're using lines of credit to pay household expenses, or they may be using their line of credit to pay their mortgage. So that's going to delay people entering the market, and it certainly doesn't help consumer confidence. I think we're all in a consumer confidence levels are going to be probably at an all-time low for the next few months, and understandably so.
So on that very realistic note, are there any additional insights or maybe parting advice that you can offer to dealers?
Well, I think that, it's not all bad. I know we're in the midst of this, and it does seem it seems it's daunting, it's overwhelming. But people still are going to need to drive after this is over. So consumers will still need to buy cars. And the question mark is just simply, how long does this last for before things return to normal? And how much does the market go down by? And there is positive news out there too, that when the market does come back, interest rates are at historic low levels. The Canadian dollar is at a very low level. So people in the Canadian auto industry that in the business that export vehicles to the US, there should be opportunity for them there, provided that the US market rebounds and there's demand for those vehicles. As well as the manufacturers are really pulling out all stops in terms of incentives to new car purchasers. So there are some things working in favor of the business overall. Plus, there will be pent-up demand as well. So that doesn't mean that 100% of the people that would have bought a car, say, in the month of April are still going to do so, but there's some portion of those people that will. So those consumers will return. And it's already being seen in China, actually. I was just reading an article just a couple of days ago that some of the dealerships in Wuhan in China are saying, well, really sales have come back to kind of pre-COVID levels. And that's really after, about 2.5 months of them being locked down and sales sort of disappearing. So it will all come back. I know it's going to be very difficult to weather the storm for lots of different reasons, but the industry will return. It's just a matter of when.
So for my last question, maybe one thing you could tell us about is the impact of, I guess, the residual values on the Canadian Black Book forecast.
Yeah, certainly. We talked about its effect on wholesale values today, which we see is that something occurring in the short term. So really between now into say the end of Q3, beginning of Q4. But longer term, when we look out in our residual value forecasts, we do see that as much as we'd like this COVID problem to go away right away, and not have any hangover effect, we do see 12 months from now, 24 months from now, it'll still have an effect. So generally speaking, on an average, 12 months from now, we're actually reducing our residual value forecast by 4%, and then for 24 months, we're lowering it by 2%. And then 36 and 48 months, we're lowering it by 1%. And then we see 5 years from now, so 60 months from now, we don't see any effect. But we're watching this all very closely, and this is where our point of view stands right now at the beginning of April. If it looks like Canada is not pulling themselves out of this crisis quickly, then those adjustments will become more severe over time. But yeah, we're hoping 12 months from now things will be a lot different. I guess we can check back with each other 12 months from today, but we still think that there will be an effect to values for lots of different reasons, including just the fact that we talked about consumer confidence earlier, that even 12 months from now, some people in the economy, in fact, I think a large number of them will still be dealing with this. In fact, we may still have slightly higher than ideal levels of unemployment as a result of all this, as some businesses don't perhaps return after the crisis. So yeah, it's something that we're watching very closely, and it's going to be a challenging time for people in the industry, no matter how you look at it.
Well, I definitely think we'll be connecting again if this is going to be a longer term thing, a much longer term thing, actually. But in the meantime, I would say thank you for taking the time to do this interview, and I wish you and your family good health and safety during this difficult period.